Hello, welcome back to Female Voices Life and Loss. I'm Teresa,
I'm Wayna.
and we are continuing our series, The Hidden Layers of Grief No One Talks About. And today we're talking about something that many people feel, but almost no one says it out loud.
Hmm.
Wonder what that is.
Yeah, I'm wondering. Feel, but don't say it out loud. Okay, let's see. So, have you ever felt relief after someone died
Mm.
and then felt ashamed immediately after that for the relief? If so, this episode is for you.
Has it been a stretch of time when every phone call made your stomach drop, or you were bracing for bad news with phone calls, or even when nothing was happening, your body was staying on high alert? Have you experienced that, Wayna?
Ma'am, yes, I have three
Yeah.
stories.
Uh, Anticipatory grief happens before someone dies, and I personally have experienced it, and obviously you have as well.
Mhm.
That's what caregivers feel when they're watching someone decline, when the diagnosis is terminal, when the hospital visits increase, when personalities change sometimes. You're grieving someone who's still alive.
Yes,
Many
yes.
times with that first diagnosis, grief begins.
Mm. And it's such a confusing place to live, right? Because you're still showing up, still loving, still caring, but inside you're already mourning that person. So
Mhm.
I can see that space. I've been in a space like that with my cousin. My cousin passed away in 2020, I'm sorry, 2022 through diabetes. But she had been fighting that malfunction, for lack of a better word, for at
Mhm.
least she was like 25. And so she ended up dying at 50. But probably that last 10 years was kind of waiting, like you said, like, "Ugh, is it this time? Is she in the hospital this time? Is it going to be this time?" So, my cousin I still got to talk to her, still laughing, joking, all those things, but internally kind of waiting on that other shoe to drop. So that one was but that went on for like 10 years, like I said. So that was really, really challenging. And like you said about the personality changes, that lasts probably 8 months, 6 months, 6 to 8 months of her life. She was very, very mean. She was very,
Ooh.
very angry, and I was just like, what's happening? Of course, we didn't find out all the rest till later, but her personality directly changed. She was a very, very bubbly, sweet person, would give you the shirt off her back.
Yeah, it is very difficult. It's like an emotional limbo sort of thing. You're preparing your heart while it's still holding hope. Like for me, it was the first time I remember this was with my dad who had Alzheimer's. The personality changed, like everything changed. We really felt like we lost him. His mentally, we his um
Mhm.
lost him, but then we physically lost him later. That, yeah, personality changed big time, got combative at times, and it really does take an incredible toll on your entire nervous system. You're really living in chronic stress. There's
Uh,
a lot of sleep disruption that happens. Your body is really bracing all the time
mhm.
for, you're like constantly on alert
Yeah.
for it to happen. I mean, it's going to happen.
Mhm.
And then I experienced that again with my mom just a couple of years ago with
Wow.
being diagnosed with cancer. And, at first we knew it was going to be a little while, but we had no idea how long. And the doctors always give you an idea.
Yeah.
And in our case, it was not as long as the doctors had anticipated.
Mhm.
So we knew, and we're very fortunate, I guess, in some
Mhm.
respects, that my sister is a doctor. And so
Mhm.
in both cases, she really alerted us, like,
Um,
when the bodies were both declining, that it was it was close.
mhm.
And so that was helpful. But you're still stressed on that high alert for sure.
Yeah. So it's just so challenging to watch that decline too, like you're saying.
Hmm.
I just luckily you have your siblings. There's a lot of you guys. So,
Yeah,
you
support
guys are
each
able
other.
to support each other, but when I think of just like myself, for instance, if that were to happen to me, Gabe doesn't have any siblings. And so I'm always like, Lord, please let him marry well. Please let him pick a very good partner who can be there for him when that time comes. Cause we don't even think about those things, right? When we get married, we're all like, I'm in love, I love him,
Right.
I want to spend my life. But you think about the values and priorities. So when I think about caregivers who don't talk enough about how isolating it is, because I know from my mom, she took care of my grandma, and I call her Shorty because she was like 4'6", so she literally came to my shoulder. But hers, it was more just her memory towards the end. She would ask me the same 5 questions every 10 minutes. Jesus. But even though I knew it was coming, even when it happened, when for me, I
Mhm.
guess the realistic part is the funeral. And just to see
Yeah.
that casket there really opens it up for me. So I imagine caregivers hear a lot, and probably you and your siblings too. You carried that silent burden. You hear people say, "You're so strong. I
Mhm.
don't know how you do it. They're lucky to have you."
Mhm.
But they don't see the fatigue, the emotional depletion, the isolation, the mental load of constant vigilance. It's love, but it's also exhaustion. So, how many caregivers feel guilty for even just admitting that? That
Mm.
has to be hard.
Yeah, it is really hard. And there's, especially with Alzheimer's, I know there's lots of books that are written for the caregivers because it is difficult for them.
Yes.
So the thing though is when somebody does finally pass, what happens really biologically,
Mm.
to
Mhm.
us? So that emergency, that being on high alert all the time ends,
Does it really?
it
I
it
feel
I
like
think
it
it
takes a
does.
minute.
It kinda is like, I think it's a short thing, like,
Oh.
it's like, "Okay, they're gone now," but then here it comes again. So the nervous system kind of exhales there, like, "Okay, now we're not on that roller coaster,"
Mhm.
but I think another one starts for sure
Yeah.
shortly after that. So the exhale can feel like a relief, but it doesn't last long.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because now you're starting another, I'm gonna call it like another grief cycle sort of thing. It's one
Mhm.
grief kind of happening, and then now here's another grief cycle, just different because now they are physically gone.
Yeah.
Because their body, well, our bodies really have been holding their breath for months, sometimes years, like you talked about.
Yeah. Mhm.
And so it's really an exhale, but then we're right in back in it again. So the relief, the guilt happens though when that moment of peace collides with love. The relief is not a lack of love.
Yeah.
You think, how could I feel calmer right now that now
Mhm.
they're, like people say, they're in a better place. There's peace, all
Yeah.
of that. But what kind of person does that? Or like me, like relief that my dad was finally gone. But relief does not cancel out that love for sure. It simply means the suffering for them has ended. That
Mhm.
high alert of when is that call coming? Um,
Mhm.
it, that part has ended. So I remember that for sure. That's very vivid in my mind.
Mhm.
I remember when it was over and I slept better, especially more so with my mom, but I didn't realize how long that I hadn't truly rested.
Mm.
And that moment, the next day, I did feel much calmer. But like you said, especially like you said earlier, at least I have all of these other siblings. But then
Mhm.
everything started, like the
Yeah.
making the plans and figuring all of that out.
Mhm.
Thankfully, with my mom, a lot of those arrangements had been made,
Mhm.
which was
Exactly, and I'm
you
thinking
know,
about doing that for myself. I don't
yeah.
think we've given enough space, though, to those parents who are taking care of those special needs kids
Mm,
who are born with that kind of
mm,
time limit already. Just thinking about one of Felicia, who was on our podcast, last year. She took care of her child, and had
Yeah.
all the monitors and all those things in the home, and she did that for, like, 6 years, I believe, or 8,
Mm,
some long time
yeah.
frame, and even though she knew even though it cognitively, but when her son passed away, the guilt, like, "I should have been there, I should have been awake, and I missed this or I
Sure.
missed that," and I could tell you just for me knowing her for such a short time, she's an amazing mother, so I don't believe that she
Mm,
vetoed anything for his safety. I believe it was his time, but that's still something I'm sure that weighs on her. Just, I could have done more. Sometimes you think that.
and all of that that goes along with it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just and then for, like, when I think about, the relief that they passed away, and, so I think about my family, like, my son passed away, and then we're kinda like, "Okay, we're gonna deal with this," and 2 weeks later, somebody else died, and we're like, "What?" And I got it through a text
That roller
message.
coaster.
I was like, "Who di What do you mean?" You know? So it's just like, man, so we found out, I'm sure my family found themselves kinda on high alert, 'cause someone passed away, like,
Yeah.
every other month for, like, 2
Sure.
years.
Sure. Were any of those ones that you anticipated that they were gonna happen? Obviously not your son, but the
Mhm.
other ones that, you knew that they were coming.
Not at all, none of them.
Okay,
You know
okay.
what I'm saying? All of
Those
them
were
were,
definitely different
like,
then.
just out of the blue, so I'm sorry, it's not anticipatory,
That's okay.
but yeah, just thinking of people who have those seasons, it's just like, "My goodness."
Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
you saying that it's love, so then the grief starts after the relief. But, the grief is the love. I have nowhere to put this love that I have for this person.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that feels super important to say out loud. Imma say that part because it's just really, really important because
Mhm.
people expect grief to look like uninterrupted devastation. What does that
Mhm.
look like? Like, what is uninterrupted devastation. But grief is layered, like you said. Close one cycle, now I'm starting a new one. And that
Uh-huh.
new one may be layered, complex, contradictory. You feel heartbroken and relieved. Deeply
Yeah.
sad. And so I have part of that in there for my son as well, because my son was special needs. He was the healthiest he was when he died, but he still worked very, very hard every day to be here with us. So I carry both of that.
Mhm.
Other things that you may feel deeply sad, strangely peaceful, devastated, and no longer bracing. So two emotions can exist at the same time. So I know my son is with Jesus. He's healthy, he's happy, he's probably running real, real fast now. And we down here just still miss him tremendously because he was just unconditional love, for us.
There's definitely when you're anticipating and that's I can only speak to that because of
Mhm.
my parents. They're both like that, and really my husband's parents as well. At the end, they were both on hospice, so we anticipated
Wow.
that. So
Mhm.
those emotions really can live in your heart together. That grief that you're having, but then the relief.
Mhm.
In my instance, it would definitely was for both of them, there was grief, but there was relief because there was a lot of suffering and pain and all of that. So there was love there, but then there was this big release from that. And then there's sadness, they're gone, but then there's the peace that they are at peace. So there's like lots of double emotions that go
Mhm.
along with that. And allowing both of those is actually emotionally healthy.
Yeah.
So I guess I just want to make sure that the listeners are okay with that. Like, don't beat yourself up because there you feel peace and you feel relief and you feel all of those feelings
Mhm.
that they're now gone. That's very normal,
Mhm.
and it's actually emotionally healthy to feel that.
So, a compassionate way to reframe this situation held a lot of pain, and my nervous system is responding to the release of it. So, that, like you said, Teresa, that exhale, we've been holding tension for how long?
Yeah,
It's,
sure.
love was carrying something very heavy for a long time and it's gone. So, when you find yourself, and I'm going off a little bit off script here. Feeling both anticipatory grief and relief guilt. Nothing's wrong with you, like Teresa was saying earlier. This is natural. It's human. It carries, like you said, exhaustion, fear, love, compassion, all of that. You can hold both truths if you keep that with you. Hold both truths.
Well, and it, like you said, it's just very human to do that.
Mhm.
And give yourself compassion. Like I said earlier, just give yourself compassion. So,
Right.
any other thoughts on that anticipatory grief or any other times that you've experienced that? Like I said, I've experienced that with my most recent losses with parents and mother and father in law.
Yeah, and so with my cousin, I say the ancestors talk to me, discernment or whatever. But I saw her. I was doing her makeup, because she had a
Mm,
lot of skin issues just with her condition. And I saw her in a casket as I was putting her makeup on. And I was like, now mind you, this was like February, March. She passed away in August or something like that. So it wasn't immediate, but that was a little hard. I didn't tell her. I didn't tell anybody because I didn't want anybody to think I was weird, but I saw it. So that one was hard because I love my cousin. She was like my big sister. Other anticipatory, like my husband, his mother passed away a month after our son passed away. So we had 3
mm,
funerals in 2 months. But that was anticipatory. Like we knew he knew it was
okay.
coming because she couldn't remember the grandkids anymore. Just gradually, like, when they went to visit her, she just didn't remember anybody anymore. She had stopped
Mhm,
talking for a while, maybe for weeks. She just didn't even talk
mhm,
anymore, and she
mhm,
just kinda, like, looked through you, for kinda lack of a
mhm,
but him and his brother, I think his brother took it the hardest. My husband and I were kinda like, she's been dealing with some challenges for a long time because she missed her husband. She grieved him for a really long time, like, she was ready.
mhm,
But at the funeral, the release happens where everybody's just,
mhm.
everybody tears are coming, but they're happy and sad. We miss her. I miss her because she was so tickled that she could pronounce my name. She was so tickled. She's like, "Wayna." And then
Aw,
she told me she's so sweet to me though. She says, "Wayna, is Josh a good husband?" And I
mm.
just thought that was the sweetest thing that mother can ask. And I said, "Yes, ma'am. He provides for us wonderfully." And she's like, "I'm glad." And then she said, "You know
Mm.
what, Mona? You're my favorite daughter." Like, I'm your only daughter-in-law, but I'll take it. But she was always, always very, very sweet to me. When she saw that Joshie, oh my God, it's like kindred hearts. Even though he never saw her before, he only saw her a handful of times, but it was pure love when they got together. And it was just so beautiful to just have those memories. So I'm glad that she was able to have that. And I was able to witness it too. But
Yeah.
that's probably the last one I can remember, anticipatory.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think sometimes when I work with clients that are grieving, have found that when there are those long illnesses, sometimes people feel like they get to really work through anything that they had never talked about, kind of resolve anything that there might have been tension or guilt or anything with.
Really?
Sometimes, but then
Yeah, I
there's
was like, "Really?"
other times that they're like, "I didn't want to bring up any of that stuff because they were already suffering, and I didn't want to create a argument or a conflict or any kind of heightened emotions
Oh
or
my
anything." So I've experienced kind of both on that. So
beautiful for
it's
me.
very interesting that
Mhm.
sometimes people will talk about it so that everything is out in the open, it's resolved, but others, they just hold it in.
Yeah,
So what came to you for that? Yeah.
my sister cousin Vonda, who passed away, the day she had surgery that day, and
Mhm,
so me and her hadn't talked for like 3 months. There was some just she wasn't in a good place. I'll just say that. She just
mhm,
wasn't in a good place, and I was just
yeah,
like, I am going to protect myself and let you do you. But so my cousins, of course, kept me updated when she went to hospital, and they were telling
mhm,
me when she was going into hospital that she needed to have 2 surgeries. And I was like, she's not gonna make it through 2 surgeries. But she
yeah,
got through the first one, and then the second one, I think that's when her blood pressure. But that day, what you reminded me of is she was talking to all my other cousins, and they had came to hospital or whatever, and she says, "Well, Wayna's not here." And I told my cousins, I said, "I'm not coming because she was getting her into it, for whatever that was about. It was something really dumb, I'm sure. I was like, I don't want to come to the hospital and upset her because she's having surgery.
Sure, sure,
So I
sure.
was like, I'm not coming to the hospital. And so she got really, really angry with everybody because she was like, she's not here. And I was like, why would I be there if we're in an
Mm,
argument? You know what I'm saying? But
mm.
I guess maybe she wanted to
You
tell me
oh,
something, but the energy around it was very argumentative. And I was
sure.
like, no. So I think I got there maybe an hour after she had already passed. But I just
Mm,
didn't want to disrupt her healing. And I was like, I'm not gonna come to the hospital because I want her to heal.
yeah,
So
yeah,
maybe I missed the opportunity. I don't know.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
think I was the only one probably boohooing at that funeral because I said the Lord knew better. He knew I could not deal with her being sick and on hospice. So he took her in a flash. Very
Yeah,
self-focused in that
yeah.
in their funeral. It's all about me.
Sounds
That's
like
how my
you're
brain tries to make sense of things, you know?
sure, sounds like, that you felt that you didn't want that conflict to
"Oh,
happen, so,
no, you just
yeah,
had surgery. No, no,
yeah,
that's not
yeah,
okay." I love her to death. Her son, he carries her heart. It is just so beautiful to see, and I'm
nice.
just happy that the Lord allowed me to see that, yeah.
That's awesome. So, of course, we're going to continue this series every week. And so, this one today was about that anticipatory grief that you may be feeling because you're really uncertain of whether it's okay to be at peace after someone dies or relief or happy.
Ooh, yeah,
And I would say yes to that for sure. So,
yeah,
if this conversation resonated with you, let's share it with someone who might need to hear they're not alone. Grief
yeah,
isn't something you get over, it's something you learn to carry differently. And we're honored to walk alongside you. So until next time, be gentle with your heart.